Okay, so here we go, and we keep continuing on the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix with the 2-4 profile. The second line is interesting because the second line is about the smell of victory. Every time I hear that line, I want to do Robert Duvall. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory. This is all about power assumed success. I was trained as a boxer. If you go to a ring and you don't think you have the power to defeat your opponent, you're going to get beaten up. It's as simple as that. One of the things to understand about the smell of victory is that it isn't the same as victory. They are very different things. To assume that your power is not going to be challenged, to assume that just because you have power you're going to be able to succeed, the fact that you can control power doesn't mean that you were the only one who can control power. This is the great comeuppance for all 2034s. They will go into a situation assuming that they have the power only to discover that it's not necessarily true. The 2-4 has to learn that the display of power that brings victory is only in the stage in the development. Now, what's interesting is that if you look at the 34 hexagram, you will see that the only line that isn't blue line is the second line. We all know that the 2-4 has this blockage. It puts up its barriers. It has to receive the call, and it needs to develop the network in order to be able to succeed in its life. And if it doesn't answer the call, then it's never going to be transformed in any way. Yet it's very difficult for 2-4s to accept the call. They're naturals after all. The one thing that's interesting about the second line is that these are the kinds of beings where each display of power that works gives them strength. So they develop their power slowly in life. Naturally, not unnaturally, but naturally. It's a step by step process. However, the fact that they can feel their power growing doesn't mean it will always grow and doesn't mean that it will lead to victory, whatever that victory happens to be. Then you begin to see something about the 2-4 is that the 2-4 is only here to be called to victory. It's interesting to think about it. There's only here to be called to victory. You knock on the door and you think you got a chance to show everybody that you're the best, that you're the one that can be whatever, and every 2-4 knows this because every 2-4 meets this in their life. So momentum is something that is inborn. The other thing that is a perfect counterpoint to the bully. The second line doesn't know its power. It's there inside of its environment and it's doing its thing. It's always surprised. It's very busy in its environment, doing its thing, being busy in its own life. It doesn't realize its power relative to others. The lower trigram inside process doesn't know. It's very surprised when somebody says, boom. And for them, each of them recognitions with the network brings additional strength so that at some point they can break out of their shell. Let's take the archetype of the 2034 woman that's on the second line. And most of the time, they want to be left alone. Most of the time, the idea of a lover is just going to be an inconvenience. They're not particularly sexual. They're very busy in their lives. They have things that have to do. But because of that and because of the insularness, they don't know that they're powerful. They may not know that they're attractive because they're so powerful. In other words, none of it is there. Every time that somebody can penetrate the barrier and just let them know how they become more and more powerful and more open to displaying their power. I used to describe how somebody who seems to have a shy infrastructure, they're not necessarily shy people. They can really surprise you. And there they can really surprise you. They can hold things in on a very long time. The 2-4 not letting go out. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, I have the power now and I'm going to display it. These are the most powerful missionaries on the planet, whether they're missionaries of quit smoking, quit drinking, quit screwing, quit whatever. They're incredible missionaries once they have the feeling that they really do have a power. Like all naturals, it has to be pointed out to them. When you see somebody who's a 2-4 and you see their doodles on the notebook and you see that's really talented, the moment that you say to them, gee, that's really good, wow, does that make a difference in their life? It gives them the next step in this finally building the momentum to put their power on display on the outside. Then we go to the 2-5 profile. The 2-5. When you're dealing with a 2-5, there's this incredible dilemma of having to motivate oneself. And that any display of power is going to receive the backlash of this display of power. And to be a 2-5 is the assumption that you're shy and docile. And then all of a sudden they're capable of lashing out. The one thing about a heretic is that when you have a 2-5, you really have somebody who has the potential for very, very powerful heresy. What I mean by that is that you could deal with a 2034 and you know that through the work with them, they're busy about this, they're busy about that, whatever. You have this projection about them and they're absorbed in that and you can really access them. These people can really surprise you. They can end up displaying power and you'd imagine it's an incredible shock. The whole thing about the 2034, that it's a loose cannon. These beings are caught on that. There's no other place where sacral response is more important than the 2034 because it helps put the brakes on. They're not a 14. They don't have the accumulated power in life. All 14s have this lifelong process of trying to get to power. The 34 already has it. They just don't know what the hell to do with it. And they don't know how to use that part to power, particularly when the 34 is in isolation and it's related to 10 or related to 57. So yeah, find this way in order to use your energy right, especially for 2034s. They need that a lot. It's very important for them.